Welcome to Crosstalk. You know, every January, millions of people write resolutions. But by February, most have forgotten them. Yet somehow, some people achieve more without writing anything at all. So is the problem discipline, or is it that we are chasing goals without purpose? This is the conversation we want to have today. You know, as you start New Year, your list is as long as maybe 13 pages of many things that you want to do. But when you take stock of what you did last year, then you realize you've not done as well. 6 out of 10 people set New Year resolutions. But by week 2, majority of them have been lost. That's the conversation I have in studio, and I'm so happy because the team that I have is the best we could get. They're brand strategists, they are mentors, they are life coaches in different spheres of life, and you'll be getting to hear their stories as well as we learn from them. On set with me is Samantha Orchardson. I got it right?
Yes, you did.
I tried. You know, well. From where I come from, I would say something different.
You've done very well.
Thank you. She's a founder of Pursuit by Design Limited, a boutique personal development and leadership coaching firm focused on purposeful, values-driven growth. She's a professionally trained coach through CDI Africa. That's the highest certification in coaching there.
Not the highest, but on the way there.
On the way there.
Yes.
So it's a resolution.
It is one of the resolutions, yes.
Welcome to Crosstalk.
Thank you.
Asante sana.
For having me.
Thank you. Also with me on set is Elisha Winger, who is a founder, Tanawe Talent Center. He's a transformational leader, youth mentor, and children's rights advocate with over 13 years of experience working with children, teens, and young people across Africa. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I hope you don't mentor them to get to the streets. No Gen Zs.
That's what we are trying to avoid them from getting to the streets instead of rescuing them from the streets.
All right.
Yes.
Welcome to Crosstalk.
Blessings.
Asante sana. Also with me as part of this conversation and a panel, I have Diana Achieng, founder and youth mentor at Road to Mentorship. Wow. It's a faith-based initiative delivering youth programs, training, and speaking engagements that addresses social challenges through faith, community engagement, and partnerships. Welcome, Achieng. Thank you so much. You know, when you talk about New Year resolutions, the very first thing that always comes apart from reducing or cutting weight is finances. So we have Elizabeth Waithaka. She's a money coach, trainer and author and co-founder of Atik Africa Limited, a personal finance coaching and empowerment firm based here in Nairobi. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Asante.
Thank you. Also, we have the founder of Ruby Jewels Association, Faith Anjema, a trainer, facilitator, speaker, MC, and moderator. So Nikienda this side, she can come here and do this show. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Asante sana for coming. And lastly, we have a mental health advocate, Kelvin Mwangangi. He's a university student pursuing information technology and a mental health advocate with growing focus on youth well-being. Karibu.
Asante.
Asante sana. We now need to start the conversation. The studio is packed, and I'll start with you. Because at times such as this, most people really set resolutions. But when they take stock of what has taken place in the previous year, they realize, maybe I didn't achieve 80% of my resolutions that I set. So the question then is it really worth setting end year or new year resolutions?
I love how you've started because it's correct. Many people look back, trying to wonder what happened along the way. And it is important to set resolutions. Ziegler always says that without a goal, we are always aiming at nothing. So you'll be a wandering generality and not specific to where you're supposed to be heading. And it's important to not just look back and wonder what happened, but to ask yourself then, where did I go wrong? And as long as you don't have a mechanism to support the process of reaching our goals, then we cannot identify where the loophole was or where the gap was. That is one of the key things. The other thing is unmet expectations of ourselves, things we don't say out loud, and also appreciating the external environment, things that have changed. This year, we know how things have gone, but do we take that into consideration? And then do we adjust our goals to be able to reflect that? Yeah.
Wow. Elisha, would you say this is something that is overrated?
What I can say, thank you very much. And just to pick on one my sister has said, setting out for a journey without a destination is confusion. And having a destination without a plan, it's a mess. For example, you're saying, I'm going out. Where are you going? And you don't know where you're going, and then you don't know how to get there. So the first thing is, where am I going? And then, how am I going to get there? And I find that most of the time, we set resolutions. The Bible says, do not, if you want to build a house, first evaluate the costs so that you don't start and then it stalls along the way. Then your friends will laugh at you. So most of the time, we sit down and say, today I want to do this, without first doing an assessment of who am I, what do I want, and this year, where am I going? If maybe I'm going to Kisumu, this year I want to maybe reach to Nakuru, or maybe I want to get to Naivasha. So the question is, have I done a personal assessment to see if I have the resources, I have the ability, and considering what she has mentioned about external factors. Because when you're now discarding the means, you will look at now, you do your SWOT analysis, looking at your weaknesses, strengths, opportunities, and all this. And also looking at the environment. What are the changing environment? So that if you say that I'm going to reach Naivasha by the end of the year, but you still find yourself at Kimende, you may be getting yourself at Kimende, you may have tried based on factors, or you have not scored. So my point would be, before we jump into doing the resolutions or the purposes, it's good for you to answer these two questions. Number one, where am I going, and how am I going to get there? Yeah.
All right. We'll try to find practical ways of identifying and answering those two critical questions. But Samantha, most of the times people say, and I don't know whether it's a misconception, but it's a reality, that a new year is a change of calendar. Nothing really much. If you didn't do it in the previous year, you can't now do it this year. So unless you change yourself, then your resolutions might not necessarily matter as much. Is that true?
I think there's a lot of pressure for New Year. Like there's this excitement, something new is coming. But ideally, if you've not set your goals for next year by now, you're already on the wrong, you're losing time, right? I look at it as what he said, your purpose. It's just at that juncture, this is where I am, just a continuation. And yes, the new year can mark something different, but it is usually not the best time to start thinking about something new. It is, you've set it and you're ready to take action.
Wow. So there's by when it should have been done.
Yes.
So if you've not set by now, you are late.
Yeah. Look at most companies. By now, they already have their strategy for 2026. What makes our lives different? Yeah. They've done that in August, September. That's what they're busy doing. What are our goals for the next year? Looking back at the previous year. So it is important for us as well, our organization, our human being, myself, then how am I going to move into the next year?
And Gemma, let me get to you before I get to the youth mentor, because this is amazing. But the question is, must resolutions align with one's calling or purpose?
Wow, thank you so much. The panelists are giving quite deep insights. What I would want to add on that is, purpose is eternal. It's something that God deposited in you that keeps you going every other day. And the resolutions are sort of the roadmap as to how you get there. So the challenge comes in when we try to seek for external validation on the things that you need to achieve, instead of seeking that internal intrinsic value that you have that propels you now to achieve the goal and the purpose that you're supposed to get. So when it comes to the journey that someone takes and the purpose, what I normally ask people is this: purpose is for others, passion is for you. So sometimes the goals we set align to the passions we have, and also comparing ourselves to what others have achieved and putting that as a measure of our progress and our success. And you see, those are some of the self-limiting beliefs that we carry through, and they make us not even align ourselves to what God created us to be. So just as Coach Samantha has said, you need to sit back and reevaluate yourself during the year. What have I achieved? What are the milestones that I've actually conquered towards my purpose? And then when it comes to purpose, ask yourself, what are the things that I love doing? What are the things that made me happy? And what are the things that I want to continue doing that are aligned to that? That's all I can say for now. Thank you.
Elizabeth, Coach Elizabeth, finances is one of the key things that we look at. And now that we have been told, if you've not set any of those by now, you're already late. Sometimes we look at our finances and when we set goals that are aligned with our financial aspirations, is more in terms of what I don't want to buy. It's like, this is what I don't want to do with my money, but not what your money should do for you. How do you set financial goals?
Now, we are talking about resolutions and financial goals, and I like the way the panelists have said, especially I want to echo what Eresha has just said, that when you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So even with your personal finance goals, I don't know if I would call them resolutions or it is goals or it is both. I don't know where to draw the line between the two, because actually with personal finances we always say focus long term. It is very, very unlikely that you're going to set a goal for your personal finances that, of course, they are short-term goals that you achieve by December of 2026, starting in January. Of course, they are those short-term. But the thing is, focus long-term. So I would say that it is starting the journey towards the beginning of the year. I don't know whether you call it a resolution for yourself, but me, I would go with goals. Put it down, like I want to have an emergency fund. And creating an emergency fund, it is a journey, it's a process. You go slowly by slowly. My Bible in Proverbs 13:11 tells me, whoever gathers their money little by little. Those are the words of the Bible, little by little. So that little by little, and based on the realities of the economy, the realities of our incomes, which are very, very real, it is a step by step. But then it starts at the beginning of the year. It's time to tell yourself, this is where I want to go, and this is how I'll go. This is the how, and with that, there is likely to be progress. So let's not look at just it being a resolution. Let us make it a goal, so that it is not pressure. It is something, this is a journey I'm walking, and this is where I want to get. Okay. Eventually, you're able to measure progress.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let me hear from Diana, because most of the times, and mostly young people, we tend to set goals and resolutions that are more like aligning to what we copy from others. So if Coach Samantha is good in this specific area, I'll equally put that as one of my resolutions, but it might not necessarily align with my purpose.
I'll start by saying that every single person that was placed here on earth, they were placed with different gifting and different calling. We always quote this scripture, Jeremiah 1:5, when God came to Jeremiah and told him, before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you and I called you to be a prophet among the nations. So every person has that calling that God had placed to them before the foundation of the world. So you can't say that because I see a person achieving their goals in this particular area, now I want to go and do that. Is that really what you are called to do? If you go into that direction, automatically you will fail because you did not consult the person who placed you here so that you can know what you are supposed to do and align yourself with that goal and that purpose that God has given to you. Yeah.
Okay, I'll come to boy child, but in a few. I just wanted to get Samantha because just interacting with people, even planning for this particular recording, just asking a few of my colleagues within office, almost 80% of them failed in achieving some of the resolutions that they had set. So why would someone set, and within 2 weeks of setting that resolution, you already know you are going to fail? How can we do better that even as we set these resolutions, or even those that have already been set, that by Feb, we are not looking at the list and saying this one failed, this, yeah.
There's a statement that you've said, when we set, we already know we're going to fail. That's already one of it, mindset. If you set knowing you're going to fail, then you will fail. The second thing I would say is, which most of the people here have said about purpose. Why is that important to you? Why is that goal important for you? And is that goal for you or is it for somebody else? Because sometimes we set goals to please other people, not because it is something that we really genuinely want to do. And the third thing is how we set these goals. I think we put them, that we follow the SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, relatable in time. But what is the process to get there? So, for example, another question would be, who else can help me? If it is based on things I can do, for example, diet, something I can do, then it is more achievable. But if it is based, for example, on a promotion that requires 10 people to approve, what is the likelihood of that to happen? So what can I focus on then? The focus would now shift to being the best that I can be in the role that I am. So at one day, that promotion, when it's ready and it's my turn, then I'm able to get it. So those three things, what is the motivation? Mindset, motivation, and how do we actually set the process to reach that goal? Just beyond the SMART, what else?
What else?
Yeah.
Elisha, how should resolutions sound like?
I feel, number one, resolution should align first with your long-term goals. Like, as I said, if you want to go to Kisumu, you cannot say that this year I want to find myself at Thika. So it should be guided by where do I want to see myself in the long run, so that you are building blocks. Just like my sister Elizabeth has said, it's a process. So you gather little by little. And number two, it should be as realistic as possible. Then I feel it should be, personally, I align my resolution based on my passion, what she said, because that's what will drive me to achieving them. I work with churches and schools. So if I say last year I was able to reach 200 churches, this year I'll trust God for 300 churches. And the easier way is I already have a bank of 200 churches. So I'm just going to use these 200 churches to initiate 100 churches. Yes. So now it's within my line, and it's driven within my purpose and passion, because I'm passionate about children. So I'm not going to struggle and feel like, because maybe I'm saying in the next 10 years, I would love to have reached 2,000 or 5,000 churches. So bit by bit, I've moved from 200, I'm at now 300. And that's what brings inspiration. So you realize next year, you say, wow, if I can do 300 in 2 years, then I can do 600 in the next. And how will I do it? Just banking on what I've learned, with the network I have, the resources that I have from this year, to keep building from that.
Okay. Yes. Kelvin, do you struggle setting your goals, or this is something that you achieved a milestone last year, this year you set a similar milestone, or how do you do it yourself?
So firstly, I think I can say that I struggle, but I'm learning how to cope and how to maneuver. I start off by looking at my last years. What did I set for this year? How have I achieved it, and what I've not achieved? So when I'm setting for the next year, I'll begin with what I've not achieved this year. So I put it in priority, and I know how I will achieve it.
Elizabeth, you know, mostly on finances, people will say, I don't want to spend more than 2,000 per day. So it's more of a demand you are putting on yourself than a motivation. Is that how resolution sounds like? I don't.
There's actually should be the other way. I should put order in my money. I should have a budget, a workable budget. I know every time and finances, they come with many emotions. Like when I'm going to buy something, I'm already feeling the pain because I did not want to buy it in the first place. But then I must be able to, maybe it is a need, or maybe it is a want. Yeah. So I would say that it is not easy, but it is good to tell yourself, instead of going from I don't, have your values aligned to your spending. And how you spend your money has got a very big trajectory on where you are able to go, on you being able to achieve your goals. But then let us be able to separate issues. Let us separate our emotions from our money, so that when we are spending, when we are doing what we need to do, when we are following up for our goals, and many people get to the point of thinking it's all about money. It is not. It is a wider conversation. How are your values? How is your validation? There are people who buy things for their own validation. I mean, this makes me feel good. Or when I'm stressed, I spend my money in a certain way. Or when I am bored, people find themselves spending in the wrong way. I think it is time. Or when I'm hungry, please, and let me say here that don't go to the supermarket or to the market when you are hungry. First eat at home. Because the overspending will come out from there. So it is about us being intentional, being able to separate issues. Let us not tie maybe our worth, my significance to the money or the lack of it. Let us not tie love, for example, and many people relate or equate money and love, yet those are two unlike terms. Let us separate money and love. Let us separate money and let me give. Let us normalize maybe giving something that money cannot buy. Because again, during these seasons, we find ourselves spending in areas that we should not, because we want to give. We don't have to just give money. You can give things that money cannot buy. And that now puts our relationship with money in a good perspective. Yeah.
Yes.
Before you move on that point, most of the time, where you realize especially in the area of monies, I want to give a practical example today. I walked into an hotel. I wanted to take breakfast there. So when I asked them for the menu, I looked at it and I said, okay, it's beautiful, but this is not the budget I had planned to use for breakfast. So I walked out of the hotel and I went to another restaurant and I took my breakfast. So most of the time, we want to spend because our friends, your friend is buying a Mercedes Benz, and I have a friend of mine who telling me I help her get a loan to buy a car. And I told her, okay, why do you want to buy the car? Because, you know, this is what my kind of friends are. So that will interfere with if you're setting your resolution, be realistic with yourself. Overcome the pressure of trying to make, the environment look. Because one thing I know, if you cannot reach it today, tomorrow you will reach it. So just be realistic with yourself so that you don't stress yourself, you don't find yourself in depression, or you don't find yourself like, I didn't do it. It was just too high for you.
Yeah. Most of the time people will say, you don't love yourself. If you get into a restaurant and then you walk out and it is for you. So you are denying yourself for who then? Unapigia mwili pole, Samantha.
Huwezi pigia mwili pole kila siku. Once in a while.
And let me say kupigia mwili pole is okay. But please let's do it on a budget. I mean, I can have a budget ya kupigia mwili wangu pole. Yeah, and it works. And I like the way he is saying that we spend in a certain way out of pressure. Then it becomes a leading cause. Money issues are a leading cause of mental health issues. So I think that it is time we brought that conversation to the service so that we're able to relate with money in the right way.
In the right way.
Yeah.
You know, Faith, there are people who would also say the reason why I don't set goals is because they will remind me of my failures. Yeah, so I don't want to be looking back into my journal or whatever place where I write my resolutions or goals and then say, I didn't do this. And so I don't want to remind myself of these things. Whatever happens, happens. And that's the mindset they walk into a new year.
Wow. One of the areas that I also focus on is training people on self-sabotage. And exactly what you say, that's self-sabotage, because there are things we call saboteurs. And what you say, that statement is already a saboteur that you've told yourself. And when you're looking at self-sabotage, there are thoughts that you tell yourself, self-talk. And that is negative self-talk, because how the brain works is it works at a place of protecting you from danger. So in this regard, the brain is decoding that as danger, like you already failed. Why are you trying it? So for the brain, it's thinking that it's a defense mechanism so that it protects you from failing. But in reality now, you're failing yourself due to the negative self-talk. So what happens is this. You need to now look at the issues that you need to deal with. Become your own protector for your own progress. Sitting down, analyzing what are my strengths and what is the brain trying to tell me, being self-aware and conscious, because you're setting goals from a conscious aspect in terms of this is what I want to achieve, I will fail, that's the conscious bit. But subconsciously, your mind is already telling you, don't try it, it failed. You can't. And then you come to a comfort zone of telling yourself, enyewe mbona nijaribu. In ya watu kama, you start comparing and saying, I was not made for this. Now, what we need to do is this, be real with yourself. Your capabilities, what do I need to work on? And it starts from a point of setting micro goals, just small goals, incremental progress, instead of looking at this whole big picture of, because micro goals lead to the macro win. So if you set them incrementally, slowly, and also having an accountability partner that you say, okay, right, this is what I want to do, and this is what I will start with. There is something called no action day. Because your mind already is protecting you. Don't. You'll tell your mind, fine, we're not doing anything today, we'll chill. But tomorrow I'm starting with just one push-up. Just one. But you go to the gym, you get someone lifting 50 kgs and you're like, hii sitaweza sasa. Already your mind has shut you off. So it's a point of being real. And I'll give an example of myself. I like how people are just talking about self. Because it's real, and this is what people want to know. A few years back, I had set a goal, losing weight. And for me, it was drastic because I had seen someone doing it drastically. I actually avoided a lot of things. No carbs, no sugar, I was only doing veg and protein. And I lost. A very good amount of kgs went. But after 4 months, the body started craving. I go to meetings, I find ugali. Ugali is calling me. I go to meetings, and in the house I would cook chapati and smell the pan because I'm like, I am missing. So when I reached my target weight, I started eating now. I was like, I'm comfortable. And the weight came back. What I didn't know was I needed to go to a nutritionist. I needed to know my whatevers, my vitals and all those things. And with time now, I've realized how my body works. So I'm doing micro steps towards that. And I'm comfortable knowing that I don't have to lose like in 2 months, or I didn't gain the weight in 1 day or in 2 months. So same as progress, the way you're saying, you can't buy a BMW if your finances are not aligned, if your mind is not at ease as this is where I am, what do I need to do to move from point A to B to be able to get that mark, So it's just being real with ourselves and stop all these self-sabotaging ideas and negative self-talk.
Wow,
powerful.
Thank you for sharing as well. I'll come to you, Diana, but before then, let me bring Samantha, because this period, motivation speakers and just motivation tends to really peak. And then it falls very fast when we get to March. Because January and all those kind of things. So there's a lot of purpose, there's a lot of just mindset, mind shift kind of conversations. And people tend to really come with energy into New Year. Why comes that when then it gets into Feb, it gets to March, then that tends to go down?
So one thing that came on top of my mind when you're talking about motivation, Zingla used to say that motivation is like taking a shower. You need it every day. But we go into these spaces, we get it for that time, and we think it will take us through the whole year. So back to how do we keep ourselves motivated? And Faith talked about accountability. How can I keep myself motivated? And that actually comes from action, you know. Moving beyond, this is what I'm thinking. Yes, my mind is telling me I should not take water. I should grab for a soda. But I know water is good for me because of the diet that I want to be on. So the action will be taking the water in as much as I feel like taking the soda. And so as you progress that way, then you start changing the small habits. And another thing that we've been told many times is that it takes 21 days to establish a habit. Actually, Dr. Caroline Leaf, who is a neuroplastic expert, and she also really bases her research also on how the Lord has created us. She says it's actually 66 days. Because at first, for it to become subconscious, it takes more than the 21 days. 21 days, you are really fighting. It's a battle. Every, week 1, I'm good. Week 2, just one day, I don't need to do it. And before you know it, you have backslid to your usual way of doing things. And another thing is to realize that all the successful people have gone through that process. It's a human phenomena. The difference is they keep doing it. They keep pushing through. Because the growth, the change in mindset, the change in behavior, in habits, in how we actually look at ourselves, it's in an everyday thing. And sometimes we just focus on the big thing, but it's a daily habit. So what Faith talked about again, it's a micro that bring the macro in. So what are these things that we keep doing every day? But then how are we holding ourselves accountable? And there's, being realistic, but I can tell you that's one thing we're not very good at, because we give ourselves excuses, but I am this way because of. And so that's one of the things, like in coaching, it is you are using the same habit, a financial habit, it's also replicating in how you work. Because it is us. And so being aware of, okay, this is the same mindset I have in these different spaces of my life, then what can I do differently? What is keeping me, bound to that belief? And what is the new thing I must do? And then how can I replicate it in the different areas of my life? So in a nutshell, it is how you're going to keep yourself motivated throughout
the period.
All
right. Thanks.
Yeah, just before I forget, what she has talked about, you mentioned about people refusing to make new resolutions because of their past failure.
Yes.
And she talked about the mind, putting a defense mechanism. I feel, and I came to realize that one of the reasons people don't want to do the resolution or face the failure, because I realized that the success of that resolution strongly depends on you yourself. So first, for example, myself, there's a time I used to set resolutions and not do them. Then I did a personal assessment and I realized I was the problem, self-sabotage. So first, I made the resolution to first deal with myself. Are you getting? So what makes many people not to achieve is that defense mechanism. Your mind convincing you that don't do it because you will fail. Instead of you doing a personal stock taking and asking, why did I fail? Maybe you may be the problem. So there may be habits in you that are stopping you from, from achieving. So first, unpackage yourself, be real with yourself, I normally say dismantle yourself and then rearrange yourself. Then once you rearrange yourself, you will realize achieving the visions or the resolutions or the goals will be just easy, because now you will be in a position that will not struggle to do it, because you've removed the viruses within you that are stopping you from achieving.
Wow. Diana, you know you work with young people, and most of the times this is a generation that deals with a lot of pressure. There's career, there's just real life situations, there's finances, we've talked about that. Now they are very active in politics and all these kind of things. How do you speak to a young person to set realistic goals and resolutions without adding pressure to them? Because you can also speak to people to a point they feel this is just too much, far and beyond what they're already dealing with. Yeah.
I'm really glad about this question, because I wanted to disagree with the previous statements that my colleagues have made. At times, you can set personal goals and you end up not achieving any of them. So do we come to the conclusion that you are a failure because you did not achieve any of those goals? And my answer to that is no. Speaking from my personal experience, there are certain goals that I wanted to achieve from the year 2022 going backwards, and I achieved none of them. From 2021, 2022, not until 2023, when I made the decision, I went before God and I told him, now these are the goals that I wanted to achieve, and none of them have worked. Now I surrender myself to you. I surrender my desires, my plans, my goals, and my ambitions to you. Align me with the purpose that you had for me on this earth. One of the career that I wanted to take part in was to become a lecturer. And I was so hell-bent and so very staunch that I'll get this job. I applied to several universities, and only one came back with a letter telling me that, unfortunately, we do not have that position for you. Now, was I a failure when I tried all that and none worked? No, I wasn't. Why? Because I was not aligned with God's purpose for my life. Now, when I did that, then God gifted me this ministry road to mentorship, and I now teach. But I now teach young people, youths and children, and I share these stories with them, telling them, in as much as that you have all these ambitions, in as much as you have all these goals, you can be so strict with them and none of them are aligned with God. Of course, you will fail by the end of it. So it's better for you, in as much as you are pursuing your careers, you're going to school, you are seeking an employment or even a particular career field, make sure that they are aligned with God's purpose for you. And in that, you'll find your fulfillment in it. So to me, this is what I talk to my students. And it does not mean that if God has called you, it's supposed to be something in ministry. People have different callings in different areas. It's better for you to identify that earlier and align yourself with it so that you don't end up frustrated like I was initially. So when I aligned myself, I'm really happy with what I'm doing and I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And that's what I'd love for all my mentees to achieve.
Wow, yeah. Powerful. I think Faith will also help me answer this question. Is purpose something that is developed or is constructed? Because just borrowing from a story, then you have to align, you have to open yourself and then submit all these plans to God. So do you construct it, or is it something that is developed within you?
Wow, I really love the way you've challenged the discussion. What I would say, purpose is innate. God created you with something in mind. He did not create a vacuum. And everyone has been called differently. The only problem comes in when we discover our purposes late, because society has dictated that this is the line people should take. And because we want to fit in, yet we were created to stand out. Each and every one of us is unique in our own nature. And what I've realized when it comes to purpose, you'll find you're doing the same thing in different spaces, wearing different hats. It's only for you to drill it down and see if, like her, she's saying she thought she'd be a lecturer in a university, but God gave her the gift of teaching, but now in a different space. And that's why I asked, your purpose and your passion go together. So what is this thing that gives you joy, gives you fun, gives you fulfillment when you're doing it, but you're still aligning to what God made you to be? Purpose can be refined, and that is why we have all these tools around us that God has given us. But it is in you to discover. It is in you to just sit down with God and say, God, this, just like you say, take a stock take of you. What are my strengths? What am I good at? Because you'll find someone, maybe you've been in a career doing accounting and all those things, but that is just to meet your daily needs. But there's no fulfillment. But at the end of the day, when you go back home, maybe you're weaving and knitting and you find, wow. And you're doing it maybe with old women, you're sitting there with them. Then you realize, I'm actually finding fulfillment, bringing joy to these old women. I'll give my case. I came to discover my purpose later when I started looking at the things I've been doing in my career and what brought me fulfillment. I'm a people's person. I like talking to people. I like encouraging. I like doing all these things. But I kept asking God, which space? And I found out that I'm more inclined to women, where there are women and building them up and training and all those things. And you see, the purpose is still there. Your voice is still there, but you are replicating this in different spaces that God has allowed you to be in. It's for you to sharpen it, but align it to what God has given you. So we need to sit down, ask God, what did you create me for? And that's the same question Moses was asked, what's in your hand? So ask yourself today, what's in my hand that God can use to multiply the effect on earth? And Miles Monroe said the grave is the richest place because people are going down with what God put in them without discovering and letting the world enjoy that. I would say we should not put pressure on ourselves in terms of age because that's just a number. And there's nothing like retiring. I normally say you're refiring, like redirecting yourself to the next phase of life. So the notion that I cannot do this because I'm 40, I'm 50, I'm 60. There are people who get married even at 50. People who get things, companies thriving at that age. And I think it comes with years of experience and the failures, because the failure is not a bad thing. That's what I tell people. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a learning process. Because from that you will learn, I tried this, it didn't work. I tried this, maybe I was doing it wrong. And after you seek God intentionally, he will direct you. That's the benefit of our God. So I would say this thing of putting yourself in a box and saying I'm 30, 40, 50, 60, nah, it doesn't work. Just ask God, am I aligned to your purpose for me? And if not, show me how. And then the other thing people need to know, we need to be teachable. Teachable, to be corrected and all those things so that you are aligned, because if you're a know-it-all, then you'll miss the mark. All right. Yeah.
Kelvin, you know, you work in a space where you deal with young people and mental health, and this space, most of the times, the things that we deal with as young people is just underestimating patience and time. So because of the pressure of I want to have it now, you realize you are pushing your mental capacity too far to a point where you get affected or go through a mental health issue. Have you seen this with most of young people that you deal with? That we want money now, not after 5-10 years.
So from a Gen Z perspective, resolutions, most of the time we call them bucket list. And it comes from, it's just random. You just see something and then I'm like, yeah, I want to do this. But the real question should be, how am I planning to get this thing? And what she had said on SMART, the framework or the skeleton of everything, any goal that you want to achieve, it should be based on the SMART. So planning is very core and very important in anything that you do. So the other day I was watching a documentary of how Osama bin Laden was captured. So the US Navy SEAL, they had like 80 structures, 80 plans. They had the aerial view of the house. So they tried to know how the house will look like from the inside. So you need to have a plan A, B, C, D. What if plan A backfires? You go to plan C, to plan D, and make sure whatever you are planning, whatever you want to achieve, you will have it. So my colleagues have talked about the long term, but I think the real point of discussion is the mind likes short-term rewards, if you've noticed that. And that is something that is affecting us Gen Z mostly.
Coach Elizabeth, how can somebody celebrate the small wins in a manner that doesn't affect the plan that they've already set for themselves?
one of the things that gives us the motivation to keep going, to keep putting order, to keep putting structures in our personal finances is being able to celebrate the small wins. There's nothing that is so retro or so insignificant in terms of your personal finances. I like the way the Gen Z has said, many times we find ourselves messing our finances because I see it, I want it. That is what messes many of our personal finances. But let us normalize, like we can celebrate in ways that do not amount to debt. Because again, people get into debt trying to celebrate a milestone. So the benefit you achieved here goes the other way, the other side. Yes. Yeah.
All right. Samantha, there's an aspect of many successful people have a particular pattern, and they follow that pattern, not necessarily a plan, but a pattern. Is a pattern more important than a resolution?
Yeah. They actually nowadays call it a rhythm, a leadership rhythm. And it is more sustainable because remember, our seasons are changing. What we were last year is not what we will be in 2026. Our environments are changing. So some of the things that we had put in place to help us achieve our goals are no more sustainable. And so what is this rhythm that is like second to you? It's part of you. For example, are you a morning person? Is that where your creativity is high? Or are you a night owl, and is that where creativity is high? And then through the day, what are these things that you can take? One of the things, when I work a lot with leaders and upcoming leaders, is to put in their schedules bits of rest, 5-minute breaks, 10-minute breaks, where you just are present, you just shut out all the noise so that you can do the next thing well. Because recent statistics have shown that a person on average touches their phone 90 times in a day. So can you imagine the goal that you had in the morning, obviously by evening, you've been busy, but you don't know what you've been busy doing because there's something that has been distracting. And that is a reality of our world today. Our distraction rate is so high. In fact, they also say that our attention span has also dropped by 20% in the last 25 years. So that means we need to do things differently. So what is this rhythm that I am building into my system, into my being? Because that is the whole. Actually, the goal setting and achieving goals is not about reaching the goal. It is about who are you becoming to be able to achieve the purpose that the Lord has called you to be. If He's calling you to this standard and I am here, then what must I be doing on a daily basis to be able to do the things He's asking me to do? And that comes from rhythms.
Diana spoke about what she had desired to become. Is it that there's a difference between purpose and ambition?
Yeah, that's very true. Actually, there's a difference between a job and a work. And people do not realize. There is your job and there's your work. Job is what pays your bill, what you do because you're earning from it. Work is what God has designed you to do. And what she has talked about is redefining yourself to God's purpose. Because if the Bible says that many are the plans of, yes, but the Lord, yes, and then submit all your plans to the Lord and He will make them prosperous. And remember, God is a very organized CEO. He does not involve Himself in anything that is not part of His agenda. No matter how that thing is beautiful, it's good. If it's not part of His agenda, I can tell you, He will not allocate funds for it. He will not put anything for it. As in, He will tell you, you do you. So the first thing that we need to do even before, and she mentioned about prayer, and prayer at all times. Personally, before I even set my plans for 2026, I pray and ask the Lord, what is your plan for me in 2026? Because for me to succeed, the most important thing I depend on is the grace of God. Because when the grace comes, it brings wisdom, the grace will attract the resources, the networks, they'll put everything. Grace will put things together. And that grace, God will only release his grace where he's involved. Are you getting? Yeah. So sometimes we set our resolutions or our ambitions or our whatever based on this year I want to build a house, I want to do this. So many materialistic, and we've been made to believe that resolutions must be materialistic, as in things that I can touch, build a house, start this project, do this. And we've been meant, and one thing, it's one reason that makes people get into depression, because you want to evaluate your success based on the materialistic acquisition. And that is, for me, I believe, what she said, it's a big reason why many people do not achieve. And when they don't achieve, they feel depressed, they lose direction, they get to a point and say, I'm a failure. Because it is not aligned with the will of God, and it is not purpose. It is not, it's just your ambition.
Ambitions.
Yes. Purpose.
So Samantha, then that means, can somebody be successful but ends up losing their purpose?
I lived that a few years back before I came into rediscovering my purpose. Life was okay. I was having work, good jobs, but I was feeling empty. And what she said, what has God created you to come and do? And so, as Elisha has also said that, when things don't, when he's like, this is not what I asked you to do, things just don't work out. And I came to a point in my life where everything did not work out. So I needed to start from scratch. And that's one question I keep asking people. If you do not have anything, a single coin to your name, your title, which we give a lot of attention to, can be taken away in a moment. Your network, if you have nothing and you're just you, who are you? Can you define who you are? And beyond that, can you define the value that you have? Because those two things come from Christ. He gave us our identity, and he has put gifts in us that he says are irrevocable. And so going through that process of, okay, Lord, what is the purpose? And one thing about the Bible, when you go through, it's a calling. God calls out people. He calls Moses. He anoints. So it's a calling. What is he calling you to do? And I always look at purpose as your lifelong, it's like a mural. It's this whole wall. At the end, whenever the Lord calls you, it's what other people will see, what has happened. Purpose is not about me, it's about others. And every time the Lord calls, he's like, lead my people. It's about my people, serve my people. Many times we look inside, I want, and it becomes very introspective, but it's about his people. And that can be anywhere, in the marketplace, anywhere, in the hard places where he's calling you to do. And so those are the processes of really identifying. If you are confident in what the Lord has called you to do, confident in your identity in him, then he says, I will equip you for every good work. What is this good work? His works is good. So what is this good work? We need to go back and keep asking him. And I also love the Bible stories because he never gives them the whole picture. He's like, you go. Then you don't start asking questions. Like, how will it be? What do I need to do? And that is now the process of how you come to your goals. Because like today, this year, on this mural, only paint that part. Next year, go up and paint this part. And so he equips you for that season with that goals and mission for that. Be able to do that, yeah.
Wow, good.
So maybe just to put some icing. It is very possible because, for example, my personal experience. I'm a lawyer, and I was working in the law firm. But all that time, I was just not happy with it. And at the point I was resigning, our human resource came and asked me, what's wrong? Nigga, where you are headed to the right direction. And I left, and they're like, where are you going? Because for a long time, I was fighting with God. I wanted to become a top lawyer, become this, whatever. And actually, the trajectory was okay. At that point, from the human perspective, you'd be like, my friend, you're achieving it. But when I left that job, for 3 months, I was without a job. But the first money I made was more than what I would have made in my 1 year salary as a in the law firm.
Wow.
And from that time, the satisfaction I have in what I'm doing, the success, you know, the things I've achieved, not materially, but in terms of progress. And I don't struggle, I'm just
living life.
Yes.
Wow.
So
you know,
when
you are making me feel like I'm seated here and maybe God called me to be a nurse.
So when you listen to God and you just surrender and you say, you know, Maze, you take over, do you.
Wow, because we are coming towards a tail end of this conversation, but as I do that, I want each of you also to speak to one myth or misconception that people then needs to leave behind when you talk about purpose and aligning ourselves to what God has called us to be, and mostly moving to a new year and setting those resolutions. What is this one misconception? You'll say, this one, drop it, pick this one as we move forward. Coach.
One myth that people need to drop is that money is everything. For sure, money is not everything. There's something that is bigger than money. I'm not saying money is bad. Money is good, yeah, but the other things that come before, the money comes at the bottom line.
Because most of the times, we want to do things when we have the money, and when we get the money, we start to budget when it is over. So we end up not doing anything.
Let's normalize budgeting for money that we do not have. So long as what we want to do is aligned to God's purpose for our lives. God will provide in very mysterious ways. And I like what Rasha is saying. So please let's know that money is good, but it comes at the bottom line.
Diana?
I want to break this misconception that people believe when God has called you, you need to work in a church. Yeah. Ministry ministry is very diverse. When I read the stories in the Bible, when God called different people, I tend to look at their career field. I say someone like Moses was a shepherd, someone like Solomon was an architect, David was a musician, a warrior and a poet. I look at Jesus Christ as a carpenter, and even Paul as a tent maker. In as much as you are called into ministry, there's also the career bit where you have to apply the skills, the talent that God has given to you. And it can be in various areas. You don't have to restrict yourself, and don't restrict God on the path that He has called you to walk through. Yeah.
Thank you. Kelvin?
The misconception that we have about New Year, I've grown up in a setup that we are told that whatever will happen at that time you're crossing the year will follow you the rest of the year. But I think that's a lie. We should do away with that. On purpose and ambition, I believe that ambition is what I'm setting from my end, and purpose is what God has set for me. And she said that the grave is the richest. I believe a lot of people die with dreams. They have yet to discover their purpose. A purpose is like your talent. You just don't wake up this day and you say that I can draw. No, you just come and realize slowly you can draw. So I think that's fair enough.
That's fair enough. Thank you. Faith, any misconception that we need to drop as we move forward to a new year in terms of purpose or just finding a calling that fits someone's direction or life? Yeah.
Okay. One misconception that I would want people to drop is measuring success with someone else's yardstick. Define what success is for you. As you're setting these goals, what would success look like for you, not for people? Because you'll find people define success in terms of the money in the bank, marriage, children, so many things. But for you, it could be as simple as rebuilding a relationship, forgiving someone. And that would be something great. Like for me, I would say my 2025, my greatest win is still maintaining my ministry.
Samantha, any wins that you said, I set this, I was not very sure, but I achieved it?
I have wins. I think the difference was I hadn't set it, back to purpose, and I just knew part of the things that I do is really develop and equip women for leadership. So in all the spaces that I'm in, that is what I do. And so opportunity also comes. He who is faithful with little is also given a lot more. And so an opportunity came also to lead a team of women in different countries to be able to do this. It wasn't something that I was planning, but when I looked back, it was things that I'd kept saying yes to. And it was setting goals and growing is so uncomfortable. Oh my gosh, it is painful. I would say the biggest thing is not in the achieving of the goal, it is in the process of who you are becoming and who God has called you to be.
Wow, powerful. Did you achieve all your goals that you had set for yourself, 2025? Or there is one that you are crossing over with, like children of Israel?
I think 2025, I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied. Why? Because I've stopped measuring my achievement by, this material or this is the list. For me, my desire is to generate peace within me every day.
Thank you so much for your time on Crosstalk and just sharing your personal stories. And I know that they have encouraged someone else. One thing that stands out for me, that purpose is more of a roadmap. This is what, and the Bible in itself is a roadmap. It has all the promises that God has put for us as His children. So read your Bible, set a goal, and make sure that you celebrate the small wins. Until next time, bye-bye for now.